Welcome back, one and all, to Podstance, the Punkstance podcast. It is me once again doing a cheeky intro to the latest and first episode of 2025. So, hope you all had a lovely new year. I released the live show on New Year's Day. If you haven't listened to that one already, please do. It was a lot of fun with my good friend George. We talked about all the live shows that we did in 2024, all the music that inspired us in that year. It was just a lovely catch up with a good mate, because you need that in New Year, especially when you're sort of the beginning of January, when you're feeling so slovenly and you can't really move. I, in fact, have a bit of a cold, so I do apologise if I sound a bit nasally today. I tried recording this the other day and I sounded somewhat worse, so I thought I was just going to roll with the punches and see how well I did in this one. But there is a lot going around. It's early January, these things happen. So I hope everyone's doing well. It's a lovely day, actually, I'll give it that. It's nice. We got a bit of snow in the UK recently, just a little flurry. If you saw one of the posts I did the other day, out of my window, I had a nice little view of the snow coming down. So yeah, obviously the weather's been a bit hit and miss, but I wanted to send out a little message to everyone saying Happy New Year. Hope you had a lovely Christmas, whatever holiday you guys celebrate, and I hope that you had a lovely New Year. And speaking of holidays that others celebrate in different cultures, the person I'm talking to today is a girl by the name of Samia. I won't use her surname because she asked me to. But she goes under the name Lyrical on Reddit and Instagram and a couple of other things. But Samia is actually originally from southern Iraq, and I'm hoping that I have got that correct, otherwise this is going to be a really embarrassing intro. But we chatted very extensively about a variety of albums. But what I found most interesting about our conversation is the differing pieces of culture. Is that the right phrase? There's very different cultures that we all come from. She's lived in the US for most of her life now. She goes to visit her dad in southern Iraq quite a lot. So there was an 8-hour time zone, I think, between her and her dad. And then I'm in the middle at like 6 hours. I think it's the same as Baghdad over there. So I think it's 8 hours between where she lives and Baghdad in Iraq. And then I'm sort of fairly central. Well, I'm British Standard Time. So I'm in the middle. I'm literally close. I'm actually really close to Greenwich Mean Time. So there you go. There's a fun fact for you. But like speaking about time zones and different ways that we express our cultures, and I believe one thing she said is she doesn't even like she likes to take her shoes off in the house. And considering I recently went to Morocco, which is another country that's incredibly engrossed in its culture and Muslim culture, it was very interesting to hear her opinions about that and how her life has changed from growing up in a fairly Muslim household to now living in the US. And it's such a gratifying experience to hear from people, particularly Samia, who have come from places that are so different to my own, and I can learn so much about the lives that other people are living. It's so wonderful, and I love that experience. So thank you so much for coming on, Samir. It was an incredible conversation that we had about your culture and the general experience you've had, and the rebellious nature of listening to pop punk and punk rock that you've had now living in the US. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I won't keep everyone too long because I sound like what would happen if an asphalt road became sentient. Thanks, brain. So I'll leave you be because I need to go and dose myself up. But I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is safe and having a lovely start to the year. Please do look after each other and love one another, and I will see you on the other side.
I got it working.
Yay! There we go. We got it. Wow, it's so dark in my room. I do apologize. It's incredibly.
You're good. I live in our basement, so I have like lights in between the rafters.
Oh, well, you're fine then. I mean, I've got a very small light back there that's keeping me going. I would turn the big light on, and I have a candle here as well, but it's run out of wax. So I'm not doing well for lighting. But thankfully, we're doing a medium that doesn't require it. We can just talk relaxingly without needing to worry about who sees our faces, because mine is not.
True.
Mine is not looking the part right now. I've just had a shower, so I look really disheveled and cold.
It's okay.
But that's
I
fine.
rolled out of bed, realized I had my physical therapy appointment in like 30 minutes, and then I went grocery shopping because we didn't have anything for dinner tonight.
You're now prepared for, well, your afternoon now.
It is 12:20.
12:20. Oh my God, that's the 6 hour difference does always It's so weird to me. It's mad.
I'm pretty used to it because my dad lives 8 hours ahead.
Oh, really? Where's he
So
based?
he lives in a place called Nasiriyah in southern Iraq. So it's the same time zone as Baghdad.
Wow. Blimey. That's a hell of a jump time wise.
Even when he lived here in the United States for 20 years.
Mm.
So even when he lived here, we'd still call family overseas.
This must
So
be it. So
he's been used to it.
how long have you lived in the US for?
Oh, I was born here.
Oh, you were born there.
Yeah, so I've pretty much, other than 2 6-month periods and essentially university, have always lived in the same city.
Which city is that?
It's St. Louis, Missouri. So St. Louis in the state of Missouri. If you know where Chicago is, I live about 5 hours southwest of Chicago.
Right, got you. Okay, that's fine. I don't know my states very well, I must admit. I'm pretty terrible with it. But I do know I've spoken to a few people from Chicago, so I only know based on that being in Michigan that or Illinois rather, that you have to go south and you basically have the rest of the US underneath it.
Yes,
So
and I mean, I live in Illinois now, actually. I live like St. Louis is weird because we're on the river. So like I think it's River Thames that separates like East London and West London.
mm,
I kind of live on East St. Louis instead of
okay.
West.
I didn't realize it was such a big city that it can be
Like
split up into
5 million people,
that's
5 6 million.
That's pretty large. I can't, yeah, that's quite a city. It's another one on my list that I've always wanted to see. There's so many cities in America that just seem to be bustling and busy and there's constantly things going on. That's like the main. I just love that
That's
kind of
true.
thing. Yeah, it's always busy. Well, I will say, we got way ahead of ourselves. I love it. Thank you very much for coming on. I
You're welcome.
appreciate. I'm glad to have you have you on after planning this over. Obviously, we're here to talk about. We'll get to the musicy bits and all of it, however long it takes. But just to start off, really, what was it when I put the post up? Because obviously you came from the Reddit post. What was it that attracted you to be part of this kind of project?
I think because, so like I said, I'm in the US. I'm 26, and I always feel like my specific demographic was never, I don't want to say isn't seen enough, but like I would say the last few concerts I've gone to, everybody's like 10 years older than I am.
Hmm.
And also for the most part, everybody is either exclusively just white.
Yeah, we get around.
But also, I think a lot of people grow up with music and they kind of inherit some of their parents' or their whoever raised them, some of their music taste. I didn't grow up listening to music in my house, really.
Mm.
So it was kind of like, hey, you like this one song that played on the radio. How about you fall down a rabbit hole that's been going on for like 15 years now?
It's a big rabbit hole. There's plenty to get into, that's for sure.
Oh, it's essentially a giant 2010 YouTube rabbit hole.
One of my favorites. A good year for a rabbit hole, that's for sure.
I remember YouTube. Honestly, I think for music, YouTube was better back then than it is now. Sorry, I have cats.
Oh, that's
They're running
fine.
around.
So do I. Mine are far too big to, well, mine aren't here. They're at my parents' house, but they're incredibly fat. So you can hear them coming in before you see them. So I don't worry, I understand. I think it's great though. I mean, just as a starting point, obviously having yourself as a separate demographic is an interesting point to make. Do you feel almost isolated in that fact, or is it just the fact, like, do you feel more included now, or is it more a sort of an ongoing thing?
It's really weird because I grew up differently. Like, I didn't grow up going to concerts, listening to music. Like, I didn't grow up doing any of that stuff. So hearing people who are like, oh yeah, like my mom took me to a concert when I was like 5. And I'm like, I didn't go to my first concert till I was is 20, I want to say till I was 14 or 15.
Mm.
I got to go, I somehow convinced my mom to let me go to Vans Warped Tour by myself.
I mean, as a first gig, that's pretty bold.
But like I didn't do any of that. And also I still don't know a lot of people. Like I will say there are a lot of like Hispanic. I lived in Phoenix, that's where I went to university. So a lot of those concerts had a lot of Hispanic people. because Phoenix just has a lot of Hispanic people. But growing up now, also just like in terms of like manners and common courtesy, there's also a little bit of a difference there too. But that I don't know if that's just my parents or like my dad, because there was a lot of stuff like I don't like wearing shoes in the house, little things like that. It's like when I go to concerts, I I don't want to say people are ill-mannered, but it's I think just a different mindset than a
Mm.
lot of other people have. And like even like clothing and stuff. Like the first time I went to Warped Tour, I went twice. I wore sweatpants and a t-shirt. You could very much tell that A, I had never been there before, but B, I did not dress like everybody else. I didn't wear shorts till I was like when I start college till I was like 20.
Wow.
No shirt, no shorts, no tank tops until I was like 20. So even aspects like that were like I never thought about.
And obviously, you said that in the original, well, the comment that you put on my post, you said, obviously, you grew up in a Muslim household, and
Yeah.
this kind of
And
music is what taught you to say, well, to quote your words, fuck it, to
and
the establishment, as it
it
were.
it did. And there's a specific album, UK band Yumi at Six just announced they're going to retire.
They have.
I got I went to their final tour. I can say that I saw them. I met Josh, the front
Uh,
man,
oh, brilliant.
lovely guy, and I told him that. And it was it came out in 2010. I came out when I was like 11, and I went and I bought it as soon as it came out. And I don't there are a lot of songs on there about religion, about parents in specific. And I think unless you have an outsider telling you it's okay, that you don't have to believe in what your parents believe in, you're really never going to come to that realization by yourself
Mm,
because it's a scary thought.
yeah. Was there much that when you were growing up in that household, obviously you said that the music was limited and the clothing was limited. Is there any part of it that still influences your life now, or are you completely detracted from it now?
I mean, okay, so I live in the US. I don't want to say I'm like Americanized because I'm definitely not. There are some still things that I'm very like traditional on. But like when I go overseas and I stay with my dad in Iraq, I wear a hijab when I'm over there. And people are like, "You're not Muslim." And I'm like, "It's not about Muslim, it's about respecting a culture and a people." Like
Mm,
where my dad lives, you don't really ever see somebody my age, a woman without a hijab on. So it's not really about religion, it's more about respect. And I think if you can think about it in terms of not believing in it, but respecting those who do, it helps. I don't want to say not hate the religion, but it's like the same idea. I wouldn't go to my grandma's Christian church in like what I would wear to a concert
mm.
because it just wouldn't be respectful.
Yeah, exactly. I figured that out when I visited Morocco very recently, and obviously the rules out there are fairly similar. And then particularly for men, you're not allowed to wear, I think it's you have to wear long sleeves. So you have to cover
Yes,
up your skin on your
it's
arms and your legs. You can't wear
it's
shorts.
to
It's
your
like,
wrists,
yeah,
under your knees for men.
yeah. So you can't wear shorts above that. You can't wear t-shirts. You have to wear a longer sleeve, at least 2/3 length or 3/4 length. Um, Thankfully, I packed for that because I'm always cold. But I didn't realize until I got there just how stringent of a belief it was. And obviously, it's also a very Muslim country, so I learned a lot about. I see people pray outside 5 times a day. I'd hear the
Yep,
what's it called?
yep.
Not like they're not really
Um,
bells,
I,
are they? They do like
they're like
announcements.
prayer calls. It's
Yeah.
literally somebody in a tower in a loudspeaker calling, and they do that in, I think, every majority Muslim country
Mm.
I've been to
It's
has done that.
incredible. Like, I mean, admittedly, the one at 6 o'clock in the morning was I was
Mhm.
not a huge fan of, but it's a huge part of the culture. I'm not gonna complain about it. It's just part of their life, and you have to when you go to a country like that, you just accept it for what it is. And I think I
Yeah.
came back that much more knowledgeable about it.
The other thing is you mentioned men's. Um, Men aren't allowed to wear gold either.
Oh, really?
So
I
you
didn't know
never,
that.
So I think Morocco is Sunni. There's like two different types of Muslims. You have Sunni and Shia. I know for Shia, men aren't allowed to wear gold. They can only wear silver.
Mm. Wow, I did
It's
not.
something to do with like only women are beautiful enough to wear gold, I think, or either men are too beautiful to wear gold. It's one or the other.
Wow, I did not know that at all. I'm not a jewelry kind of guy, so I wouldn't have worn it anyway. But I never really thought about that. Maybe if there's some pictures that I took, I'll have to have a gander and see what people are wearing. But it's exactly that, like the way that a culture can impact you, not only as a tourist, but when you living in the US and then going back to Iraq, they're two completely different cultures, and it's just about
Yeah,
finding how to live in each one, I guess.
yeah, and I mean, I definitely act. I don't want to say I act different, but like, yeah, you definitely change some things, and then like the musical aspect. Like my dad listened to Arabic music, like
Mm.
old traditional style Arabic music. And I can say that now when I listen to stuff and I like think about like what my dad listened to growing up, I definitely can see aspects of like maybe not like lyrics or words, but of like the instrumentals.
Do you know any
Mhm.
Arabic?
I can speak a little bit. I understand a lot more than I speak.
Mm.
So I can watch TV, I can have a one-sided conversation with somebody, but it takes me probably like a week or 2 weeks to be able to hold a conversation
Mm.
just because my dad doesn't live here anymore, so I don't speak it that much.
Yeah.
But like
Wow.
a lot of their like traditional music is very instrumental. Like trying to think of what their name is. There's a Polyphia, there's a band called Polyphia. I want to say that's how you pronounce it. They are like they're not pop punk, they're like math rock, I think is how
Hmm.
people describe them.
Yeah, I know what you
They
mean.
don't they really don't do I think they have one or two songs where they have like a guest who does vocals, but like that is kind of similar, like not stylistically, but I like that and I can look back and be like, well, I listen to a lot of this, so it makes sense that I'm more biased towards that.
No, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, the pop punk you mentioned, if I'm correct, was the Yumi at Six album "Hold Me Down"? Was it "Hold Me Down"?
Sinners Never Sleep.
Sinners Never
Hold
Sleep.
Me Down though is probably one of my favorite albums though.
Well, there you go. Either is fine. Either is fine.
But
But obviously, when was it that Yumi at Six particularly? Because obviously, as a UK denizen, I've seen them a couple of times now, and I'm a very big fan. And they
I
had
love
their very recent album from the other year, wasn't it? I think Truth Decay, I think it was. I went to go and see their live
it's
show for the release of that. That was brilliant.
so this is kind of where like the YouTube rabbit hole comes into.
Mm,
So I don't know what it would be considered in your whatever school year you're like 12 years old in, like 11, 12. I had friends at school and they listened to music a whole lot. Since I was friends with them, I'm like, okay. And they Green Day, like Green Day, All American Rejects, Sum 41, that kind of stuff. And one of them let me borrow their All American Rejects album. So I'm dumb. I'm like 11 years old, and I go on YouTube and I type in um, All American, like All from All American Rejects, and a band called All Time Low pops up. So I
I
click on it
see.
because I'm like, it sounds like a cool name. And I found All Time Low that way, the Dear Maria Count Me In video, watching it as like an 11-year-old, not understanding it. But I'm like, okay, this song is good.
Mm,
And on the sidebar, because they actually used to recommend music back in the day, was the music video for Underdog. So that is the first song that I ever heard from Yumi at Six. And I would say I didn't like All Time Low a whole lot until the last few years because they
mm.
had a big discography and those scare me. If you have more than two or three albums, it's going to take me a second to gain the courage to listen to all of them. But no, I would say I like pop punk since finding Underdog at 11 on YouTube and getting thrown in. And this was before Sinners Never Sleep came out.
I was gonna say
And I
because
was
that's because Underdog was on that Hold Me Down album. That was one of their first ones.
so I would say I liked You Me at Six. Um, this was back when Mayday Parade was really big. So I listened to a lot of Mayday Parade, You Me at Six, the All American Rejects. I still think their first three albums are great. They do have newer music. I don't like the newer music as much, but personal preference is the great thing about music. You can
Exactly.
be as picky as you want. And then when I was my first year in high school, we went to Florida. I've only been to Florida once as an American, and I got into pop punk in terms of like the story so far, the Wonder Years. Transit will forever be one of my favorite bands.
Miss Transit very, very much.
I got to see them once before they officially retired,
Oh my
so
God.
I'm kind of in I will only see you once before you retire.
Yeah, we've got plenty of bands that are planning on doing. I mean, Yumi at six now. At least they did a big announcement for it prior
They
to doing it.
they did, and in their defense, they've been doing it for like 20 years.
Yeah, they've been going for a
Transit,
while.
yeah, Transit had been doing it for like 20 years, and that's kind of a I love concerts, but when I see tickets go on sale, I'm like, do I really need to go? The only band I've seen twice is the Wonder Years.
What was so specific? Why would you see them twice out of anyone else?
So it was either 2014, 2014 Warped Tour. I saw them, and I'm either way, I'm 14 or 15. I'm not even 16 at this point, and my mom wants me to go home before dark. That's why. So I had to leave halfway through their set.
Ah, it's a logistical thing.
Yeah, it's more of mom doesn't want me after dark at a concert, big giant concert venue by myself.
Yeah.
And then the second time I saw them for the 10-year anniversary of My Greatest Generation, and I forget the name of the album before that, but the album like the
Uh,
EP before that.
oh, I'm gonna have to look it up because I can't remember.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was Suburbia, but that's different.
the
Uh,
10-year anniversary tour. One of the best concerts I've ever been to. I'll forever say if you can see the Wonder Years, go and see the Wonder Years.
I would love to see them. Uh,
They are great. Um, my concert was kind of weird though because Dan had pulled his back out the night before because I think the night before was LA. He pulled his back out, so he was very kind of like what do they call it? Kind of stiff.
mm,
But other than that, it was a great show. And I mean, I can't blame him for that. Like, we don't want you to get hurt.
no, the moment you pull your back out, that's where problems start. My dad will attest to that.
And I mean, I understand that. I had shoulder surgery recently, and I still can't get my arm to go behind my back because it's so stiff.
Blimey. Oh yeah, you did mention.
It makes everything take 3 times as long because I can't lift anything over 2 pounds with my right hand, and I'm right-handed.
Mm.
So everything takes 5 times as long to do.
Well, going back to what you were saying about Sinners Never Sleep, that being your album of choice, so to speak.
Yeah,
What is it specifically about? Because obviously, if Underdog was your first one, what was it about their album after that that drew you towards that one?
I think because I had gotten in trouble a lot as a kid for doing things that, like, by my dad's standards, I shouldn't have done. Like being friends with dudes, one of them, listening to music, which I will say my dad's loosened up a lot over the years. Like he's not some really strict bad guy. Like he's very lenient now.
Mm.
I think it also helps, like the type of Muslim we are is depending on how you look at it, it's a little bit more lenient. But I think I'm gonna look up the track list, but a few of the songs on there, I don't want to say I know who they're about, but I think, oh, what's his name? There's five of them. Anyway, I think one of their dads had passed away, and some of the songs are about, I guess, parents or whoever, or like, this isn't a real job. Be like being a musician isn't a real job.
Mm.
And it kind of goes into as if it makes you happy and you're good at it and you're great at it, And I mean, at this point, when Sinners Never Sleep had came out, Take Off Your Colors, Hold Me Down they had already established themselves as one of the best newer bands in the sound that they were in. I mean, they had done songs with Ollie Sykes from Bring Me the Horizon. And I mean, when you think of You Me at Six, you don't think of Bring Me the Horizon. They don't play the same kind of music. But I think Ollie Sykes and one of the members were friends, so it makes sense in that aspect. But they had already established themselves, and I personally, I can understand how even if you've established yourself, how if your parents or whoever in your life, you're like a disappointment to them, I can understand how even if you have all the good merit, how they can still believe in something like that.
Mm. No, absolutely. I think it's such a strong message to people about how, because you can be very heavily influenced by people around you, particularly your parents. You know, the number of sort of, I don't know, cliche stories of being told, no, get a stable job. Don't chase your dream. I think wasn't it Robbie Williams said, like, his dad said, oh, I'll support you in this acting thing, but make sure you have a backup job like welding or carpentry or something. So there's always that little bit in their minds of just make sure you have something stable. So if this doesn't work out, then you have something else. But it can get much worse than that when your parents simply don't support you at all. And I guess it's about finding your own support around your bandmates and your friends and just people like Ollie Sykes, I guess, support from other bands who have done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be like, "Why don't you come teach English or be a lawyer or a doctor?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to."
What is it that you do want to do? Or that you are doing, shall I say?
Currently, I work at we have a company called U-Haul here. It's moving trucks.
Oh, yeah, like FedEx and stuff. The
No,
FedEx?
like home moving.
Oh, home
So
moving. Oh,
like,
right, gotcha.
yeah, so like if you wanted to like move, you could rent a truck from us.
Okay, I got you now.
But I mean, it's not necessarily what I want to do, but I don't mind doing it.
Hmm. But I
But
think
I mean,
you fall into that kind of pattern, don't you? If you're
y-
comfortable.
I would rather work in a museum or teach history because I like history. I love history.
Oh, wow. What era of
That's like
history?
I like a lot of people. I had people get mad. I like anything really pre-Christianity
I mean, that's fine
because
by me. I like
because
I love ancient history and all that.
it gets very repetitive after that just a little bit. And also here in the US, we go into so much European history that after a while, it's like, I don't need to learn about the people who sailed and took over the world for the 90th time.
Yeah, we're not exactly. I mean, the Britain now is just the damp corpse of the British Empire at this point. There's not a lot going on. People mostly look at us and go, "Blimey, what is going on?" I am the quintessential white British guy. This morning I had crumpets for breakfast. That's not even a joke. That is what I had for breakfast and tea. So,
Okay. I I like tea though. I'm picky. I like Ceylon tea
oh, that's
from
fine. That's
Sri
fine.
Lanka, but that's like the Arab in me. I buy my tea at the Arabic store. I don't get it from like the American grocery store.
I mean, I've heard stories of American tea. I went to New York with my brothers, and one of the places we went to basically gave us a mug with a tea bag in it and gave us a separate pot of hot water and a separate bit of milk. And it was just abysmal. As a British man who drinks tea fairly regularly, that was quite upsetting. But they have a lot to learn. They've done coffee very well. Americans know how to do a coffee.
Oh yeah, we
That
know
I
how to do
will
a coffee.
exactly that.
But yeah, in terms of Sinners Never Sleep, I've finally got the discography pulled up. I'm really bad. I can know all the words to a song, but I won't remember the name of the song.
I mean, are there any that really sort of stand out to you from that record that just have a story to tell or are affiliated with you in some way?
So Bite My Tongue is probably the song I'm talking about the most.
Hmm.
And then little bit of truth when we were younger. It's all, and then like you also have Jaws on the Floor, and I mean they also have a lot of like love songs on here, which I will say is another good thing. I probably will say listening to like Mayday Parade, You Me at Six, the bands around that time probably taught me a lot, so like I didn't have to go through a lot of heartbreak. I mean, I think not just Sinners Never Sleep, but also like hold hold me down to kind of put the emphasis on, if you're going to be with somebody, think really hard about it and only do it because you want to and
Mm.
not just because you can.
I think that a lot of songs like that, emo and pop punk, are particularly prolific in that kind of theming. I mean, the number of songs that they write about. Well, I think there's a bit of a stigma when it comes to the kind of genre of writing a lot about relationships, but I think the point is that a lot of them are written from experience. A lot of people have felt that kind of thing, and they wouldn't be writing about it if it, they're not trying to have people listening and just thinking, oh, here's another love song. Like the fact that there are even songs out there called Another Love Song and Another Pop Punk Song. Clearly, there's tropes
Yeah.
there, but a lot of them
And
are
I mean,
very moving.
yeah, and I mean, especially as somebody who like parents didn't want me to date, like wasn't allowed to watch TV about that kind of stuff, being able to listen to it and have it, those life lessons come through normally information we'd get from like our parents or from other media, being able to hear it at a young age
Mm,
and avoid making mistakes like that. And I mean, I think, I think, I don't want to say, when I say mistakes, I don't mean if you've done it, it's a mistake. Because I'm one of those people who believe like everything to a certain extent happens for a reason. I'm one of those people where I'm like, if something bad happens, it happened for a reason, and
mm.
all you can do is kind of live with it at that point.
Yeah.
But it's definitely helped me. And I have two little sisters. One's 9, one's 15, and they'll be like, "Well, you don't date that often," and I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm fine with that because what's the point if you're just kind of wasting your time? And if you know
Mm.
you're wasting your time,
I think that's the unfortunate reality of a lot of dating nowadays is that I'd say like most of the time they're not going to end in the manner that you think, and you're kind of just there to have those feelings, and whether it's the person that you are going to be with for the rest of your life or not, I think you've just got to take that risk at this point. But the mistake thing, I really liked what you said there. It always reminds me of that thing. I can't remember who said it now, but they said that if you're basically, this whole podcast for me was about making myself a better person. And a lot of things that I've done, I look back and I see myself as this tree. And they say that you'll always grow as the tree. The actual, if you cut a branch off or you take some bark out, whatever, the actual wound doesn't get smaller, but you get bigger. And you can grow into a bigger person and make the wound smaller, a smaller vestigial element of who
yeah,
you are. Um, and I've always sort of run with that. And I think the way you said that there as well is it's not about the mistakes you talk about. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's this has happened. Oh no, just learn from it. And then
yeah,
you'll
yeah.
be a better person out of it. I think it's great.
It's like, it's happened, it's been done. You just get over it. And I think a lot of people are like, you don't get mad that often. And I'm like, because getting mad and angry at the end of it doesn't do that much for
I'm
you or
exactly the
anybody
same.
else.
I'm exactly the same. Doesn't help anyone.
And they're like, well, you get passive aggressive. And I'm like, I think past being too afraid to admit something bothers you and getting angry are two different things, at
Mm,
least in my opinion.
yeah. I think anger in itself. I mean, there's healthy ways of letting it out. Obviously, I'm still figuring out what that is, but I had it at, well, it's been a while since I've told this, but I had the reason I don't get angry anymore is because when I was in school, probably about the same year you were talking about actually, um, some kid kept throwing tennis balls that I'd brought to school out of a window just to annoy me. Um, And in the end, he'd done it so many times that I just blacked out. Like I don't remember anything that happened afterwards. And then I found myself on the floor, like blood gushing out of my left arm. And it turns out I had punched through the window out of like in a fit of rage. And I've got a little scar in between where my veins are. So I was literally this close to having glass absolutely sliced through. Um, and so after that, I was like, you know what? It's probably not worth it. It's not helped. I've gotten myself injured. Everyone's going to remember this as like, I think everyone called me like Iron Fist Nick or something for a while because I was able to punch through glass, but it didn't solve anything. It just made me bleed everywhere. So, but yeah, there are healthier ways to do it than that. That's for sure.
And I mean, I think a lot of people think at that age, I think it also depends on like the kid. I think it 100% depends on the kid. But a lot of kids, if they're willing to learn and understand at that age, that lessons in the form of songs can be one of the best ways
Mm,
because it's not like they're watching anything. You're just hearing somebody tell their story in a musical way. There's a quote, and I don't know who it's from. If you know who Adam Neely is on YouTube,
mm,
he is, I don't want to say a music theorist, but he goes over music theories and stuff. There's a quote that he says, and it's like, music makes you feel feelings.
mm. And it's as simple as that, really, isn't it? Music makes you feel the way that you feel, and there's no
And
hiding it. It's such an authentic way of feeling, a certain way. You can put, if you're listening to stuff on your own, especially, because with other people, you hide the music you like and you try and
oh
seem
yeah,
like you're a bit more mainstream more than you ever are.
yeah.
But when you're on your own, you can feel the authentic emotions and feelings that you get from these songs without any like obstructing it. And he's absolutely
I,
right.
and I think like Mount Diablo by the Story So Far, I
Oh,
think
I
is an
love that
excellent
song.
example of that
Yeah.
because you can tell he's angry,
Mm,
he's mad. You can tell that in the recording for that song. You don't need anything else. You just need to listen to that and you can tell that, hey, Parker Cannon, that song kind of makes him angry, and that's fine. Because as soon as that song is over, that's the end of the anger. I
yeah.
hope, at the very least.
Well, however much there's plenty more albums after that where he shows off a bit more.
Or like the Wonder Years. I feel like the Wonder Years also does that very well, especially in concert.
You mentioned Mount Diablo by the story so far, a great track. And obviously that was around the same era as Yumi at Six. That was around 2011, 2012, that kind of time. But obviously Yumi at Six have had their album last year and now retired. The story so far had their album this year and are still going. Um, are there any bands from recent years or albums from recent years that have stuck with you rather than the ones from the sort of early 2010s?
So I'm really picky. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay,
I
that's
am
good.
super picky when it comes to music, like maybe even extremely stubbornly picky. The last few bands, so since 2020,
Mm,
the newest bands I've listened to is Hot Mulligan. I really like Hot Mulligan.
mm,
Um, Spanish Love Songs. I saw them. Actually, I didn't know who they were, but they were playing. They were, I don't know, like they played right before the Wonder Years when I went and saw them for their reunion tour. I love Spanish Love Songs, so good.
mm.
And then the Wombats, which is,
Oh, well, I was not expecting to hear that name.
well, do you want to know the funny thing? They released a new song today, and they're the
Did
only
they?
band that I am part of their Discord server.
Oh, wow. That's brilliant. Let me have a look at their new song.
It's on,
What inspired you to get involved in their Discord of all things?
I don't remember what it was, but they were doing something and it was exclusive only to Discord users. So I joined their Discord, and honestly, it is a wonderful little space. And I don't know why bands, I understand like the logistics of doing something like this because at the end, the bands and whoever runs it is responsible if something does go wrong.
Mm,
But it is a wonderful little space.
yeah.
And it's really nice. Like they have a huge discography. They have so many songs. They've been banned for so many years. I didn't get into them until like 2021.
Mm.
I will say far way too late in my life to learn about them. But every now and again I'll find a song that I didn't know about and I'm like, okay, did anybody else know this song existed? Or like something weird. Like they have a song called Butterfly. In the chorus it has like beeps in it and the beeps for it sound exactly like my oh shit button in my car when something goes wrong. It's like the exact same little like tone or note or whatever. And I was worried that my like, when I'm like, is my car breaking? Because I listen to music in the car mainly. And I sent a message and I'm like, is there a beep or is my car breaking down? And it just happens to be that they put a beep in the chorus
That a
that
song.
matches. And I have a Toyota, so it's probably a bunch of people when they're listening to this song
Yeah.
who are like, is this my car or is it the song?
That's
But like it's nice
so
for that
weird.
things. Asking like you learn like a lot of like weird off the fact stuff about the band. Like the band, they've answered a question. They were like, "Hey, do y'all have questions?" And I've had one of my questions answered by them, which is super nice. And then I don't have a lot of friends who like the same music that I do. Most of my friends are like video game nerds. They love video game music, but a lot of them don't like the music that I like.
Mm.
So it's kind of cool to be able to be like, hey, just talk about random stuff. We've made fun of the British monarchy before
Oh,
because a lot
so
of
do
them
I.
are from Britain.
I mean, the British monarchy is going through absolute hell
A
at the
lot.
moment. So yeah, you can make fun of them all you want. We always have the story of like, where were you when the Queen died about 2 years ago? And I was on the toilet. So that was the legacy that she left. I think a lot of people in America, apart from yourself, obviously, because you clearly understand the irony behind it all. A lot of people in America think that everyone in Britain really likes having a monarch, really likes having the Queen or the King. We do not.
No,
It's a very contentious topic here. I'm completely ambivalent to them. I don't really care. They're just people with a lot of money and notoriety across. I personally don't envy them at all because I imagine Prince William every once in a while just wants to go for a beer and like hang out somewhere, but he can't. He can't just leave the building. He has to. Yeah, it's. I think they're hilarious people. It's always when I hear Charles talking about like how he fills his car up with surplus white wine and has pet turkeys and stuff. You're like, who are you? When were you born? They're such weird people.
and I mean, I think I find it funny personally because my mom's white, so her family had to immigrate to the United States from somewhere,
Hmm.
and our family just happens to be like half Irish, half English, and the first guy on my grandfather's side, his dad was Lord Mayor of London at one point, and I'm like,
Really?
you moved here? I'm like, you moved here to become farmers and be dirt poor? Yeah, let me look up his name. I think it's Lord something Gerard from like the 1500s,
Oh my God.
and he's buried in like a bank building or something in London.
That's so weird.
And I always think it's funny because they're like, you make fun of the British people. And I'm like, yeah, because my ancestors who were really rich, who had a lot of money, moved to the US and then two, 200, 300 years now, we're poor. Like it doesn't matter at one point we had money and
It's just
eventually the royal family will be the same way.
yeah, everyone's going to be the same. Everyone's going to be the same. I mean, with with the stuff going on with the royal family now, they're going to have to put a lot of money into legal pricing, that's for sure. The amount of stuff, my God. Every time I read the news, there's something about it. There's just a weird bunch of people, and they're all German. So
Oh yeah, it's
we're all from somewhere. We're not all. I mean, I think my family's got some Swedish in them, a fair bit. My dad's particularly Swedish, or Nordic, I think he puts it. Um, but even on a local scale, like my dad's from sort of southwest London, or was born in the south, and then my mum's from a place called Leicester, which is like further up north, and they just conveniently met in London. So I've got a northern mum and then a southern dad. Just, it's just how it
Yeah, I
is
think it's cool.
sometimes. What's his name? Sir William Gerard or Garrard. I don't know how to spell it. That is mad. And that's your ancestor from 500 years
Yeah,
ago.
that's like my 12th, 13th great granddad.
That's so weird.
And it's weird because they changed it from Gerard to Garrett at some point.
Yeah, I
Like,
was gonna say it's either Gerard or Garrett, but I couldn't remember which one.
yeah. And the funny thing is, my mom doesn't know her dad that well, who's the Garrett. So I had to go through like ancestral records to find all that out.
Hmm. And yet here we are, your favorite album being a British band. Just it all comes full circle.
But yeah, like I've it is really funny because as a kid, like You Me at Six being one of my favorite bands, and I also back in the day I still watch a lot of YouTube. YouTube is my main form of entertainment.
Mm.
And I watched a lot of British YouTubers with Dan and Phil.
Hmm.
It is not on fire, amazing Phil. Um uh I don't know his last name, but Bry, he did stuff with like Dodie and Evan Edinger. Evan Edinger is an American, but he is
Oh,
actually a UK citizen now. He got UK
yeah.
citizenship, I think, this year or last year.
Mm.
But like I watched them, and as it is, I actually met Patty Walters at one of the Warped Tours that I went to,
Oh, wow.
and he's like half English, half American, I think. So I like as a kid, I was like, oh, I want to move there someday. And also the UK does have a really big um like Arab population
Oh, yeah. Goodness
too.
me, yeah.
So it's like it wouldn't be that different. Like I have family who live in the UK, like
Where
on
do
my dad's side.
where
So
do they
like
live specifically? Are they in London?
I I want to say they either live in London or they live outside London.
Oh, Greater London is it's basically just London but bigger. So I
But
don't doubt that.
and then like my dad's brothers, so my dad and his two brothers immigrated from Iraq. Two of them came here to the UK, and my Amu Sami, Amu is just like uncle in Arabic. He actually went to Norway.
Wow. Your family is very widespread, bit all over the
It,
place.
I have cousins who live in Australia too.
Just throw that one in there as well. Yeah.
But yeah, very worldwide. So like, I was thinking about the current U.S. presidential. I'm like, I've always wanted to get my master's. I could go get it in Germany,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and it wouldn't be that bad because it's only like a 4 hour flight to see my dad. And I think Chicago to Frankfurt's like an 8 hour flight.
I mean, Germany has a lot to offer. I mean, Europe has a lot to offer, from what I can
It
tell.
does. I
Um,
mean, I've flown through a lot of Europe, not stayed. I've never like went on vacation in Europe, but I've been to I've been to Heathrow once.
was that a stop off?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a horribly long that was a horrible travel trip. It
Heathrow's
was
not very good on the best of days, in fairness.
it was like 5 flights to get from my dad back home.
Jesus.
But yeah, I've been to Heathrow, I've been to Charles de Gaulle in France,
Mhm.
Frankfurt, Amsterdam, Vienna. I'm trying to think if I'm missing any. And I've been to Amman. My aunt lives in Amman, Jordan. So I have gone on vacation there. I go see her sometimes, like pre-COVID times.
Wow.
And I've been to Qatar, Saudi Arabia.
Like you must have had so much influence from other cultures just in your life. Like the amount of countries you've been to and where your family are. Like you must have been influenced by a number of different cultures and just environments, I guess.
I think so. I mean, I definitely like um probably all of that. And like I don't like modern Arabic music. It's very like a cross between bad pop and EDM.
I'm gonna imagine that, but I don't know if I'm gonna enjoy imagining it.
No, but I like traditional Arabic music. I like traditional Mexican music. Uh, my my cousins, a few of my cousins are half Mexican. So I also grew up going over to like my aunt and my tío's house and having Mexican food and going to their parties, like with the band Polyphia that I mentioned in the beginning. A lot, I don't want to say a lot, a few of their songs are kind of uh, I don't want to, I'm just going to say Hispanic because I don't know the exact musical style, are kind of inspired by that like Mexican Hispanic sound. And I do like that. I do like when I can listen to something. Back to Black. What is it called? There's an old song. I want to say it's by UK band.
Well, back
And the beginning of it, back it I want to say it's Back to Black, but I don't think that's what it is.
there's Back to Black by Amy Winehouse, but
No,
and
it's not
then
by Amy Winehouse. It
back
was
in
on,
it was AC/DC, which was Back in Black.
I want to say that's it. It's on Guitar Hero.
That's probably AC/DC. The one in it's also in Iron Man 2. I'm fairly sure.
But that if you listen to that and you know Arabic music,
Hmm.
you can listen to that and you could recognize that. To me, it sounds like they were inspired by some kind of Arabic music,
Yeah.
maybe Moroccan music. But I can listen to that and like my best friend, he likes Guitar Hero. And I'm like, when I listen to it, I can recognize it. Nobody else can unless you know Arabic music. But I'm like, that's what traditional, it's like a very traditional sounding riff.
Hmm. It's almost amazing how you've had all of this cultural influence, and yet pop punk is the one that you've sort of stuck
Yeah.
with amongst all of it. It just
And
shows how like influential and how impactful a genre it can be on people from any culture and any background.
mhm. And I think the other thing is a lot of people, if you don't listen to it, you think that it's really loud and vulgar. And like, especially older people, like my grandparents, so like the baby boomer generation, they
Mm,
think it's like rock and roll when they were growing up. And the fact is that it's not. A lot of bands, they're not vulgar. They're actually very nice people. And you can go to their like every time I go to a concert, my grandma, she's like scared. And I'm like, they are the nicest people. And I think that has something to do with it too, is that it gets a really bad rap.
mm.
But when you actually sit down and you listen to it, or you go to concerts and you meet the people and the bands and the artists, it's very different.
Mm.
Like with Confidence, another one of my favorite bands. I'm so sad that they've also now retired
It's
because
common, a bit more common now, sadly.
with Confidence, I've been listening to them since before it was with Confidence. And the frontman, Jaden Seeley, he used to do covers on YouTube way back in the day. So I've liked them before they were even a band with a name.
Mm.
And the show that I went to, I got to see them once. The electric went out. So the first like two bands played, they were supposed to come out and play, and the electric in like a quarter of the city in Phoenix went completely out.
My God.
And they handled it well. They did an acoustic set. We all took our phones out and turned on our flashlights, and we kind of pointed them at the ceiling because we didn't want to blind them. And they did an acoustic set for us, and they were outside for a few hours after the show just speaking to people. I have a necklace that's signed because it looks like the cloud from their
Oh, wow.
Better Weather, from their Better Weather album,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
signed
I loved
on the
that
back.
record. That's so cool.
And they were just nice. And the thing is, I think depending on what genre it was, they might have handled it well. But the fact that they went out of their way, they also came back. After their tour finished, they set another date. And if you had a ticket, you just had to show that you had bought the first ticket and you could have gone to the next show. I didn't. I flew home for Christmas because I was in Phoenix, and then I didn't buy my plane ticket, my mom did.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to see the redo show. But the fact that they went out of their way to do all that, and it's not like they're a big band. It's not like it probably came a little bit out of their pocket to redo the whole night, essentially. But the fact that they decided to do that changes a lot about how, as fans, we view artists.
And I think it gives that full idea of the kind of community that we're in. It goes down to you and me from two completely different parts of the world chatting about the same music that we like. But then you can
Yeah,
expand that out, and then it goes to bands who will quite literally stay for hours on end talking to as many people as they can and doing these shows for people. And it's that inclusivity that people have. It just because it's loud, which it can be, just because it's loud doesn't mean that it's bad. Doesn't mean that it's
yeah. I
aggressive. It
have
just means
earpieces
well,
for
when you go,
shows.
yes, I feel like I should start investing in them. The last one I went to see the Story So Far in Southampton, right at the bottom of the country, and like 2/3 of the people that were there were wearing like earphones or earbuds or whatever they're called, to stop it being so loud. I was like, is this new? Is it have I
I
missed this?
I recommend it. I've seen the story so far. When I saw them, I stood next to the speaker, and I want to say almost 100% sure I have hearing issues with this ear because I stood right next to the speaker,
Yeah.
and I I have vision issues. Like my glasses are super. This is them thinned down.
God.
So if I didn't pay to get them thinned down, they'd be thicker. I know I'm probably gonna go blind or lose a lot of my vision. I don't want to lose my hearing.
Mm.
I would recommend, I think, I don't know where I got mine for $10 off Amazon. I know you guys have Amazon, probably not the same as it is here in the US, but they're just little clear earpieces. And if you're there for like one band, so I saw Yumi at 6. I'm so mad they did not headline for the US tour. I will say I'm extremely disappointed that the record label didn't let them headline.
Why would they not? Why would they be against that?
I don't know. So it was, I think, Yours Truly, an Australian band.
Hmm.
Never heard of them before it, but and then Yumi at 6, and then Enter Shikari. I want to say I'm saying that right.
It is,
And it's
yes, Enter Shikari, yeah.
in Enter Shikari was the headliner.
Ah. I mean, I can believe that to an extent, just based on their popularity here, because obviously they're both UK bands. But I think, considering was this before or after Yumi Six had announced that they were breaking up?
This is after.
This
So
would have
this
been
was in
after.
October. Yeah, this was in October, and I'm gonna disappear for a second. But yeah, they didn't headline it, but I did get earpieces for it. I took them out when Yumi at 6 played just because if you're singing along, you can hear yourself.
Yeah.
But I kept them in for Enter Shikari and Yours Truly because I didn't know any of their songs,
Mm.
really. I do want to say Enter Shikari, not my thing. Excellent musicians. They put on a great show. I might
Just,
see them in the future just to
just, yeah.
support them because they're good musicians, but I don't own any merch by them other than this stuff, so I kind of went all out. Then they have all the, I don't know if they have the UK tour dates.
That might have been the US one, but they might have kept the design.
Yeah, this only has the US in uh what's the Canada. That's what they're called. And the Canada dates on it, but yeah, I really like them. I'm kind of sad. They should have headlined, but but they definitely influenced me a whole lot. Like even like what I like in music, like I think like the Wombats, I don't want to say musical style very same, but lyrically, I find that UK artists tend to be very lyrically similar.
Mm.
Very witty, very smart alecky.
It's just our type of humor. We're incredibly sarcastic.
I
Uh,
noticed that listening to them, listening to the Wombats, and I want to say I used to listen to As It Is, not as much anymore, but I'm trying to think if there any other UK bands that I used to be really into or into now.
well, you did say you were very picky, so
Yeah, I like I said, Hot Mulligan. I think they've been around for a while.
I mean, they're soaring at the moment. They're probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest band of their genre at the moment, and good for them because their music's awesome.
And then Spanish love songs. I kind of think I'm mm, very much Spotify. Yeah, it's pretty much just like songs. I don't know Spotify if you have Spotify, if it does it to you. I'll do something and it'll be like the song isn't saved to your playlist.
Mm,
So I'll have to it's like I know it was saved. Yeah. And I mean, I've gotten into like older Fall Out Boy too. Like I said, they have so many songs. It's
mm.
kind of intimidating to sit down at once and just listen to all of it.
Yeah. Well,
And then,
I think in all of
mhm,
those songs, like of the older bands and the newer bands, obviously lyrically is very important to you. What would you say is sort of like a closing point? What would you say these songs, and mainly You Me at Six, I guess, have taught you about yourself or about the music you like, and just, what does it culminate together as?
if you're going to state something as your opinion, as something you believe in, make sure that it's because that's what you believe and try to eliminate biases. So if you can think of, okay, I heard this somewhere. Do I really like it or do I just like it because of who said it?
Mm,
Do I like the idea because it's something I truly believe in, or is it just I like the person who believes in it? I think it's what it comes down to. And a lot of, I think pop punk, not just You Me at Six, but like we mentioned the story so far, the Wonder Years, a lot of that is them trying to, I think, separate themselves from situations and deciding what am I going to believe in. And like the Wonder Years, they have a lot of like personal story type songs and try to, I think, for them process so we can hear their stories and we can decide what do we think we should pull from that. Like they have a lot of songs about death. What should we pull? I think Dan is their main songwriter. What of Dan's opinions and outlooks should we maybe pull from him and decide, hey, I like that idea, but also do I just like this idea or do I like it from them? Like I think they've taught me a lot about death
mm.
because I haven't had that many personal people die close to me. And I think when somebody does, I can look kind of up to somebody, go to their music like the Wonder Years, and take what he's learned about death and maybe apply some of that to me. But I think that's all. It's just a learning game. You have to decide what you want to learn and what you don't want to learn.
No, exactly that. I think you're absolutely right. A lot of the songs that we listen to can teach you more than you think, particularly with song like when it comes to the heavier topics, about identity and grief and stuff like that. Particularly the Wonder Years. My brother, who's well, he's 27 now, but he was 26. He turned 27 in September, and when he turned 26, his Instagram post for his birthday was he just put the line from their song. It just said, "Jesus Christ, I'm
Since I'm
26."
26, all my I think it's all my cousins have kids
Have
and
kids,
wives.
yeah.
Yeah, I think about that a lot now that I my birthday was in November, so I
Mm,
only recently turned 26, and I think about that a lot. And like I have little sisters, and she's 15, and she's like, does it ever hit you sometimes that like you're not dating anybody, like you don't have these things? And I'm like, just listen to this song, and she doesn't really like pop punk, and I'm like, separate the words from the music if you have to. But I think, and particularly now that we know it's written from Dan's point of view, he's older now, and I do believe he has a wife and a kid now.
yeah.
And it's like, it's not, he felt like it was the end of the world. We feel like it's the end of the world, but he proves that it's not. He proves that you can still have those things at a later date and be happy with your life.
I think it's knowing that it's not a race. Like
Yeah.
everyone's deep down in the same boat. Some people just have very large yachts. Some people don't, and it's okay. And I think I mean, a lot of the motivational stuff that I look at says that you're never some people, I think it was like Harrison Ford did Star Wars when he was in his late 30s or something, and it's like some people write their most famous books when they're in their 50s. Some athletes are at their best when they're in their 30s, and
Yeah. And I mean, I think I told her she's 15. She was talking about like dating and doing this and that. And I'm like, you have plenty of time. You don't have to do everything at one point in your life for it to matter.
mm.
Because at any point, it's going to matter the same and even more when you're older, to be honest.
And then you can look back on it. Then you can have the nostalgia for it rather than just because if you're constantly rushing to hit those milestones, then you can't really enjoy them. They don't come naturally.
Yeah. And I'm
Whereas,
like, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, then it's not going to.
or future me can figure that out later.
Yeah.
Yeah, present me has got stuff to do. I don't need to worry about that right now. Wow, well, that's such a nice way of ending it, though. Thinking about like everyone's in the same boat, but we can all get to where we want to. We just don't need to
Yeah.
run yet. You can chill
And
out.
I mean, honestly, as humanity, all the only thing that really matters is how we treat each other, how we view each other, and the fact that if we're going to become better as people, we have to learn from each other.
Mm,
That's it.
yeah, and it's as simple as that. We just wish most people would abide by those rules because seemingly a lot of them don't. But that's the
Yep.
unfortunate reality of this, isn't it? We can do our
Yep.
best and we can control how we act, but we'll just rely on everyone else to do their part.
Yeah, there's a saying here in the US, and it's like when you drive, you don't have to worry about yourself because you know how you drive. You have to worry about everybody else.
I'm the best driver. Everyone else is terrible. Everyone else is awful, but I'm perfect. I will never make a mistake in the car. He lied. It took me far too long to pass my test, so I can't say that.
It's okay. I didn't learn how to drive till I was like 21.
I think I was 18 when I passed in the end, but yeah, it took a while. But yeah, no, I just was not expecting such a profound end to that, but I quite enjoyed that. That was brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. That was really, really
You're
nice to
welcome.
hear. I hope you enjoyed the experience.
Oh,
Um,
I like it. Being able to say a band's name and have somebody know what you mean
yeah,
is like
exactly.
a very alien thing to me almost.
Yeah.
So,
But this is what this project is all about. It's reaching out to people who enjoy the same thing and knowing the stories that they have.